The streaming bubble is going to burst. We're going to talk about it.
There will be carnage.
There will be blood. Everybody's going to hell together.
There was an article that just came out today where the CEO of Discovery and the Discovery Network came out saying the streaming war will leave a trail of carnage.
Yes,
And
they will know us by the Trail of Blood. Is that the name of the band? Yeah, well, we've been talking about this, you and I, in our personal time a lot. Maybe we've talked about it on podcasts or something, but, like, let's just get all of our thoughts out here about the damnation and downfall of culture and the inevitable bursting of the streaming bubble that is forthcoming. Mm-hmm. Because we have watched over particularly the last year or two. I mean, it was everything was leading up to this point, but this is where it like truly felt like it was happening. This eclipse of consolidation of media. There was a moment that made you most afraid. What would that be?
This year?
No, just in the whole consolidation of media that's happened recently.
Disney acquiring Fox Studios.
Yeah.
Was disturbing because that was a massive movie studio that is now being acquired by Disney.
Yeah, who already is
making all the
culture.
Biggest blockbusters. Like, this is the entertainment that we're importing out.
Yeah.
Or exporting out to other countries. Like, it is all going to be through the lenses of Disney, through the lenses of who else? Warner Brothers. Who else even has a studio anymore? Fucking Fox, which has a huge history, a huge catalog. And there was a really upsetting article where Disney has now acquired all of these classic movies that have turned up huge crowds at small local theaters, but these theaters are unable to show these films anymore because they're locked behind the Disney vault. And just
so that Disney can put them on Disney Plus, is the speculation. And so I'll say right away that Disney Plus is the only streaming service of any of them that I think has any likelihood of succeeding. I think it will probably succeed.
Of the new ones?
Yeah.
Because you have things like
Aside
Netflix.
from Netflix, Hulu was bought out recently, right?
Hulu was bought out by Disney, but I think they still exist.
Yeah, it still exists, but I don't know why. I mean, I imagine it'll just get rolled into Disney Plus eventually, right?
Right.
Like, is it just a problem of there's too many people in the Hulu infrastructure and they need to
I think there's a lot of
transition them?
Legal, like, gates being put up with all these laws that we have about monopolies. Mm-hmm. So, like, Disney has to be very careful about what they acquire. They have to be very strategic about
Disney is currently in an Etano Circus. Do you know the Etano Circus, the animation where there's just tons of missiles following? They're dodging like just this hail of missiles from all directions, and they're performing beautifully. Like, yeah, exactly, just like our troops,
just like
in
our
Iraq.
bases,
just like our bases. They're performing these amazing midair stunts in their Valkyrie, and everybody's just like dazzled watching it. But, you know. That plane doesn't need to come down because, well, it's gonna blow up our base. I don't know. I'm lost in this base blowing up metaphor now. Oh God, I lost track of what I was trying to say. Get me on topic here.
Well, you're talking about Disney
consolidation and just the massive amount of. Well, because there already weren't. I mean, consolidation of media has been happening forever, and there had been this shrinking number of giant corporations, but it's finally gotten to the point where it's like a super cluster.
Was it Viacom or CBS or something that just was recently consolidated like last month? I need to confirm.
And well, the thing about it is that the only thing making this all possible is that you know, people are going to see the movies and buying the streaming services and enjoying the content. And I think for a lot of people, they don't even consider it that like worrisome that this is happening because they're just like, well, Disney's like everything Disney makes is good, right? I mean, they
got the biggest numbers.
They've continually remade all of their animated films as live action films, and all of them are successful.
They have a monopoly on a generation's childhood.
But like,
and they're fucking milking it.
So the funny thing about all this is that the most talked about thing on the internet lately from Disney has been Star Wars and the failure of Star Wars. Everybody wants to talk about the failure of Star Wars because it's this fascinating like chink in the armor of this gigantic monstrosity that, you know, that somehow has been managing to succeed in all these other realms, but just in this one spot, trying to redo the next Star Wars trilogy, they completely fucked up. And I don't even entirely know. I can't say, like, I can't point to one thing that did it, you know? Like, I can tell that just the mentality of what they went into with those movies was wrong, and then they didn't know how to correct course once they'd realized it, you know? I think it was a matter of, like, just thinking it would be easy. Like, thinking that, oh, well, the prequels sucked, and those were still huge successes, so clearly the Star Wars name will just print money, so let's just make it in the most, like, focus-tested way, and it'll just succeed. It'll just work because it's Star Wars. And it didn't just work because that approach is not how they've been succeeding elsewhere. And the way Disney's been succeeding is that they are managing to tap into what people actually want, which is why they hire James Gunn and fucking what's his name, who did the Avengers. Like, the reason they hire these beloved writers who are nerds who have a history with the medium is that those people can deliver movies that fans of this stuff will actually appreciate. And I understand why J.J. Abrams seems like an obvious choice for Star Wars on paper, but I just think that, you know, the approach to relaunching the film universe was not like J.J. Abrams' singular vision of an original Star Wars. No. It was just he's an effective director for this plan we have of the most by-the-books possible relaunch, and it didn't resonate with young people because all of the, like, the Zoomers, they don't give a fuck about Star Wars, I don't think. Like,
Why would they?
You know, the people who care the most about Star Wars are either people who actually saw it when it was new or Gen Xers who grew up with it. But, like, even for my generation...
And nerdy millennials, which there's not a lot of millennials who are into Star Wars.
Not nearly as much as... I mean, like,
there are.
All of my friends saw the first of the reboots. I don't think any of them were around still by the third one because they didn't care that much.
No.
You know, like, they care in as much as, oh, it looks like it could be a good movie, and J.J. Abrams has made some good movies. Maybe this will be good because, like for me, I wanted to see it because of the fact that they made a big to-do about returning to a more authentic look and feel of the universe, you know, of more sets and less CGI and all that kind of stuff. But, like, you know, the movie ultimately felt like a retread and like a not interesting way to take the franchise, to just reintroduce these characters who... I don't want to go down a Star Wars hole, but if you ask me for, like, why it's obvious you should never have brought back the old characters, is that those actors don't look like those characters aged up. They look like the actors aged up. Like, you can see where their life has taken them to get them to this movie, and it's not where you imagine that character going, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, it's just such a weird feeling to see these, like, all I could see is, like, old Harrison Ford. I don't see Han Solo, you know? Like, they're not the same person, even though he's the one who played
Certainly
him,
not.
You know? So, like, it was never going to work when when it doesn't have something new to inspire the new audiences. And I think they thought that, oh, well, we're introducing these new young characters like Rey. She's a cool action hero, but she's like a paper thin character. Like, nobody really, like, relates to and, like, wants to be like her, or, you know, and her adventure doesn't go anywhere because I think part of the problem as well is they planned it as a 3-movie series. Star Wars 1 is powerful because it's a complete movie by itself. They didn't even know they were going to make a second and third one. Like, it ends conclusively, you know? So, like, to build it out as we're going to make this 3-movie thing, well, nobody cares about your main character, by the end of the first movie because they haven't done anything. They haven't thwarted the bad guy at the end of the fucking movie. They're not a hero. I am not I've watched episode 1 of a TV show, essentially, and now I'm expected to pay $15 for each episode, and you're going to change the writers and directors each episode and fucking completely fuck the story? Yeah, no. It's not well thought out. And so everybody's fascinated with it as oh, this is a place where they fucked up. But I think that that they learned from it. They put Jon Favreau on The Mandalorian, and now people are saying it's good. And it's people don't even care. They're just oh yeah, we just wanted good Star Wars. They're not I'm so sick of Star Wars that I don't care if it's good. I just don't want it to be Star Wars.
I think lots of people feel that way, and that's why we're not seeing these movies end up being as successful as Disney probably hoped.
I mean, maybe I'm being inauthentic here because I don't think that would have been the case before this saturation point that I've reached. And it's not even Disney's fault, it's YouTube's fault. Because the only way to get successful on YouTube is to talk about Disney movies. And so everybody talks about them constantly. And so I've been subjected to more Star Wars videos than the amount of time that is in Star Wars,
Definitely. And also just the marketing attempts that Disney has made to market the mascot characters. When I worked at Target, those stupid fucking, I don't know what they're called, they're round guys.
BB-28
I don't know
or whatever.
No, it wasn't a robot. It was a creature. But they were all over the store months before the movie was coming out, and just people saw how manufactured this was.
Right.
They had the mascot character being out before any information about the movie, before the movie came out, and just people could see this, and
I don't care about this character.
We don't care about this.
They didn't have Baby Groot out before the first movie. You had him out before the second movie.
And how much fucking Star Wars stuff can you buy?
Right.
Who has a bunch of Star Wars merch, has the waffle maker, has all this shit, is oh, I need more.
Yeah.
I need more with this character. I don't know. I'm not a Star Wars fan, so I'm not somebody who really thinks that they could talk about the quality of the films.
Yeah.
Because I've only seen the first new one, and I didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
I thought it was a complete waste of time.
It's forgettable. It's just not. It was... I saw the movie in theaters. I thought it was okay. I did a podcast with Devu about it afterwards, and he kind of talked me into liking it less. And then I forgot about it a week later. I don't have. I have plenty of memories of the originals from having rewatched them.
It is draining seeing so many people want to capitalize off of the hate Disney clicks or Star Wars clicks, just because it is a thing that everybody is being confronted with, because Disney has the power to put it in all of our faces.
What it comes down to is that, and this is why, again, just to be clear on what this topic of this is, we are talking about the streaming bubble and its inevitable bursting, and we're going to be talking about Crunchyroll later, but I want to just touch on why we're basically describing how, in spite of the fact that Disney failed with Star Wars, we do think that they are the only ones who have a chance of succeeding in the streaming game, and that they're totally winning. Broad scale, they're in charge of everything.
Oh, they have a deal with Verizon right now. If you sign up, you get your first year free.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people are going to get hooked because they have all their exclusives that they are going to lose access to?
They are not sweating Star Wars. They don't give a fuck, I don't think,
And they're able to put it on their street. They're able to still do things with it.
And moreover, as cynical as everybody is about that third movie, if you go to the Rotten Tomatoes score, it's really funny. Because on Rotten Tomatoes, the second movie had a good critical reception, terrible fan reception. Third movie, terrible critical reception, great fan reception. It's obvious.
Maybe that's just what Disney wanted. They wanted to get people who listen to the critics in the door to see the movie. And then by the second movie, or the third movie, they've corrected their course.
I think what it comes down to is people are very sensitive to forced narratives in their films. When people feel that the movie is deliberately trying to manipulate them, when it's too transparent about what it's trying to do, people don't like that. And this often gets ascribed to all these like woke movies, if you will, like Ghostbusters, right? The all-female Ghostbusters. The problem with that movie isn't that people don't want to see an all-female Ghostbusters per se. It's the transparentness of the cynicism in the idea. The idea that like, oh, we're going to remake Ghostbusters, but because it's modern day, we'll have an all-women cast, and and they're very clearly, each one is like a, one's got like pink hair and one's a black lady. And I'm not saying that any of that's bad, but people look at it and they see it as an attempt at forced diversity, and they don't want to see that. They think like, oh, that's annoying,
Because that's not what Ghostbusters is about.
Right. And so when
Ghostbusters was funny because it was a bunch of like deadbeat men.
Right. And so I think that when the second movie of Star Wars came around and people looked at the narrative and the way that it was going, and they just saw it as like this very manipulative thing. They saw it as like, oh, this is, it's deliberately set up our expectations to be one thing so that it could subvert them, but it's not interesting that it's done that. It's just, it's not giving me what I wanted. And so, those people who in the third movie, when everything is quote unquote made, correct, then they're satisfied. And like, that's I think of that as like the most average film goer. Mm-hmm. That's not the people who are writing pieces on the internet. That's not the people who are reviewers. It's not the people who have opinions about Disney. That's just people who, maybe I'm wrong because Rotten Tomatoes is a very politicized website, and maybe that's exactly what's going on there. But like, I do think it's representative of the way people tend to think. Like, it seems like audience scores are reliable benchmarks for like how the general public feels about a movie,
For sure.
And it will be reflected in what it makes. But I feel like I got off topic.
Nah, because Star Wars is now the driving force behind a lot of people, signing up for Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. So now we have The Mandalorian, which I didn't know this until a couple days ago, but it is coming out like every week, like a regular show.
I see. Well, that's what it seemed like from the way people were talking about it.
Yeah, like you're waiting for the next episode, and just for a streaming service to do that, it's kind of like defying people's expectations.
Was that released through Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't even realize
it's
that.
It's like a weird ploy to get people to buy Disney Plus. But they have like a bunch of original shows they're gonna start having on there. But
they also have like all the Marvel movies.
It's very clear, and I think to a lot of traditional people who have made a huge killing in TV are they're seeing this firsthand. Their shows are not drawing in the same audiences it used to. They can no longer compete with Netflix and Disney Plus, who have the resources to get like big time directors making shows for them, shows that people would rather be watching on their own time than TV. We are moving away from traditional television and into a streaming world. This is obvious. I don't necessarily think that like TV is gonna go away anytime soon. Mm-hmm. I think there'll always be like a niche for it, especially with the growing elderly population, and just, a lot of people still have TVs in their homes, but it's very clear that we're moving to streaming. So you start seeing all these weird streaming services pop up, like fucking the Peacock. I was watching the local news channel for a school assignment, and there was like a bunch of news stories about the Peacock network. Very forced, because like Peacock is obviously NBC. So if you're watching like an NBC affiliate channel, you're going to see these news stories. And it was just really interesting that the biggest segment they had on TV news was about the Peacock. So it's kind of just like, nobody's going to fucking sign up for the Peacock. It sounds ridiculous. Yeah. Who has money to just watch shows that they could already watch on TV that they've already seen? Mm-hmm. Like, even if they get The Office, which is their end goal, The Office is still going to be on Netflix for however long people have one last chance to watch it. So I just like, all of these networks are rushing to get in on the streaming industry, and I don't know how many of them are playing like 4D chess with it. Like, oh, this is inevitably going to crash, so we're just going to do this as cheaply as possible and make a quick buck. But I think a lot of them are sincerely putting a lot of effort and resources into something that I don't think...
I think that everybody's desperate, and they all see that the sea change is happening, and I think that a lot of these industries, they really don't, like, when new things happen, they really convince themselves that it's not going to last, that the pay model doesn't work, or that it's not going to be effective. But then when everybody goes to that thing and they're out in the cold and it lasts and it outlasts them, then they have to sink or swim, you know? Mm-hmm. And they don't have the right talents. They don't have the right people around them or they're not listening, you know? The management's not paying attention. They're not tapped in. They don't understand what's really going on with the way that people are doing things, you know? And so, like, they make desperation moves based on what it looks like other people are doing without really understanding what those other people are doing, you know? It's not just about putting popular shows on a streaming service. It's about, like, a more holistic experience. It's also about the brand and the years of build up to it, you know?
Definitely.
And, like,
and the, you know, the reassurance that new things are coming to your platform.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that this is an interesting thing to stay signed up
right.
for. You're really convincing people who, a lot of them are short on cash.
You need high quality. I mean, at this point, you cannot come into the game and be a new junior streaming service. You have to emerge as a fully matured service or you're done. And that's why they're all going to fail, except for Disney Plus. Because Disney Plus, they come in and they say, oh, we've got exclusive rights to all the Marvel movies, which are still the biggest selling things in the world, and having all access to all of them is an obvious benefit to the narrative of these movies, because everybody has to rewatch this shit
and
the
rights to all the
characters
so they can milk as many side series as what they're doing right now.
So I mean, for them, it's just a simple matter of like, oh, we already own culture. We just have to put it on a streaming service. And the reason that they didn't do it earlier is because they just didn't have to, you know, like.
Or they were making money from streaming services buying the rights to their things.
Like, they didn't need to have a Disney Plus, but it was probably easier for them to have that. But like, now that they have this massive amount, like, it's basically like taking the next step, you know, it's like, if we've already crushed our competition in everything else, if we can crush it in streaming too, we will truly own the world, you know?
Right.
And like, I think that the popular streaming platforms, all of them are things that have been built up for a very long time. You know, they had to really work their way into people's understanding and households. And I mean, Dick Masterson said it perfectly himself, that like, there's no way you're gonna get like grandma to sign up for fucking 5 different, or was that on Red Letter Media where they were talking about that? I think both. I think they both have mentioned that, you know, you're not gonna get people to continually sign up for another service and another service, charges on top of charges. And this is already what happened in TV, where they had so many of these channels that you had to pay for that they started just making packages and, you know, working through the networks and stuff. So are they going to try to make streaming packages? I mean, Crunchyroll and fucking Funimation tried to do that basically, but it seemingly fell apart, right? Mm-hmm. So like, I don't know what the plan is with all these things, but like, the bottom line is that the reason it's so hard to compete with Netflix and YouTube and these other services is that they already have so much content, it is basically inexhaustible. Like, Netflix switches stuff out. So it's not that they always have an inexhaustible library, but you are not likely going to run out of anything to watch on Netflix if you like anything on Netflix. Like, I don't watch Netflix. I don't like anything on there, you know? The only shit that's on there for me is anime. They have a very limited selection, and I don't want to watch it on there when I can watch it elsewhere. It's more of a pain in the ass, you know, to go to Netflix, to have to pay for Netflix when I don't have to. And I hate not knowing what the fuck is on there at any given time. But, like, you know, if you're somebody who enjoys Netflix, there's probably a show you can watch over and over. And it's not that, like, you know, you mentioned NBC. They were the ones who took The Office, right?
I think they are going to eventually have The Office, but, like, it's stuck in hell on Netflix right now. Right, because
The Office does absurdly well on Netflix. And so it seems as though their plan is, oh, well, we'll just open our own streaming service and we'll take The Office, and so that will work. And it's like, people were not en masse rewatching The Office until it was on Netflix.
And people were not signing up for Netflix for The Office. They were watching it because they ran out of things on Netflix to watch.
And it's endlessly easy to have on in the background.
Stranger Things season 2
and
just
a lot
ended.
of people, I mean, Vic and Hope, they leave their TV on, like, when they go to bed sometimes. Like, they'll just pass out on the couch with the TV on. With Netflix playing just, like, a show. Like, they'll just put on Inuyasha and let it autoplay all day. And, like, when they went to bed at our place, Victor put on just all seasons of AVGN and went to bed, you know? So, like, I think a lot of people are just putting on The Office and just having it on, streaming in the background, because it's better than watching TV, but, like, they don't need it to be The Office. Like, they'll just switch to Seinfeld. They'll just switch to fucking, you know, Friends. They'll just switch to whatever they got on Netflix, because the point is that it's on Netflix. It's not that it's specifically The Office. I mean, Parks and Rec was hugely successful, I think, on Hulu for the same reason. Like, Victor used to rewatch Parks and Rec all the fucking time, but again, it's just a matter of, like, having the service and the show is there, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I really think that the problem here is just not understanding the way that people will naturally, like, when you want to get people to buy something, it's not about, like, you either have to just give them something that they already would naturally want, or convince them that they want it, right? Like, that's the only two ways that you can get somebody to buy something. So it's like, either you make something like, let's say, a toothbrush. When the toothbrush was first invented, somebody had to convince people that they wanted to use it. But because they had great marketing, which is the health benefits and having clean breath, which makes you more dateable, bam, that's all you need. Like, you're done. So, like, now in modern day, I don't have to do anything to sell you a toothbrush, you know, like, but toothbrushes are so easily made. They can be made, and they can be so diverse as well. There's like, I feel like there's a really good, healthy market of toothbrushes, you know?
For sure.
You can introduce new toothbrushes into the fold by making innovations or, you know, changing the design of it in some way and marketing this new design. But, like, you know, there's likely going to be specialists in that field who have spent lots of time, like, in research and development to come up with every good permutation of this thing and have the best ones, right? So, that's the stage you get to when you already know people want something. So, like, movies, right? We know people want movies, but it's not as easy to, like, ergonomically design a movie, you know? You can do market research, you can figure out, like, what do people like, but there has to be a certain kind of enthusiasm that the creator shares with the audience for it to really connect. Like, people don't want to watch a movie that a computer wrote to appeal to them. They want to watch a movie that
movies are apparently going in that direction.
Yes, well, oh my God, yeah, tell me.
Sorry.
No, just go ahead. Do you have the article for that? What was it, WB?
It was WB. They're going to start implementing AI to
AI producers, right?
Producing decisions. Right?
They were going to have AIs that could, like, calculate what people want from a movie, like who would be good casting decisions and for maximum. Here, let me read this. The studio made a pact with Synalytic to use its project management system that was launched last year. So they're going to do it, an AI-driven project that will guide decision-making at the greenlighting stage. So basically they're going to use this AI to determine based on, like, they're going to feed movies into this thing, and it's going to give it either a yes or no on whether it should, like, whether they think it'll make back the money.
Do you think this is a serious cope from Warner Brothers?
Like,
what kind of decisions do you think the AI is going to promote? Do you think it's going to just promote more fucking DC movies after the success of Joker?
Well,
are we just going to be stuck in fucking...
I mean, I can't imagine that an AI is going to tell you anything that I couldn't from fucking looking at Rotten Tomatoes for 5 seconds. Like, what the fuck is an AI going to tell you that, like, that isn't obvious? This is something I want to get
into. Maybe we'll stop seeing like so much LGBT agendas being pushed in film.
Oh, that would actually...
If the AI is like,
that's true.
This is actually frivolous and people don't like this.
Oh, no. That's exactly why it's evil. Like, you cannot support the AI
But
future.
is the AI programmed to be, like, very diverse and inclusive? Like,
how can...
Did it have
if the AI is
training?
built to do what they're saying it's supposed to do, then it will be evil. Like, that is always the case. Anytime...
Not that WB wasn't evil to begin with. Mind you.
Look, I want to talk about this. I've come to realize that there's a type of person who I relate to the most, and it's marketers. It's people in marketing and advertising. I know this because I only listen to 2 podcasts, The Dick Show and Who Are These Podcasts? Just so happens they're both ad guys.
Yep, and you are dating a PR major.
And I talk about marketing constantly.
Yeah.
So why do we all relate to each other so well? It's because I think anybody who's in advertising or marketing, first of all, you have to be, and I mean this in the literal, the Matrix sense of the word, red-pilled. As in, you recognize that the world is a simulation and that everything is controlled, everything makes sense, that there is an order, there's a reason for all of what's going on. It's basically programming. And if you can see the code, as Donald Glover put it, if you can see the code...
Yes, the great marketing genius, Donald Glover.
He is definitely a great marketing genius. Considering that he had 2 of the biggest songs of... the 2 biggest songs and biggest music videos of the year with no album. So that's a motherfucking marketing genius right
flex.
There. And no even intentions of, like, no marketing for an album, no intentions of putting them on an album. I mean, I guess that's more normal now. That's, like, kind of, you know, it's a singles world, but he just basically looked at it and
but
said,
he, like, completely was like, fuck it, I don't even want to release an album.
He capitalized on that perfectly, which is, again, good marketing. And the reason I relate to these marketing people so much is that, like, again, if you understand that the world is a simulation and you can see the code, then you understand that all you have to do is manipulate the code. All it takes is understanding the code, you know? But in order to do that effectively, you have to actually understand the code. You have to actually understand how people are, actually understand their behaviors. And you can't get that understanding through data. That's why Dick's always saying, like, the data is so uninteresting to him. Like, on the old podcast, they used to always get into these arguments where Maddox would bring in all these stats, and Dick would be like, fuck the stats. I want to know why you think what you think.
The stats are fucking loaded.
Right.
Because you can have stats that reflect any worldview.
The stats don't tell a story. They're just figures. But, yeah, and like you said, let's say I tell you, like, I fit 10... like this, I have 2 corns. One corn, I could fit 10 kernels into my bowl. The other corn, I could only fit 2 kernels. I'm fucking up this metaphor. The point I'm trying to make is that the stats can be bullshit. God damn. I'm trying to imagine these chords in my head, but now I'm just picturing these big chords. It's really making me laugh. I was trying to make a thing where the bowl would turn out to be really small. It would have made sense if I had fucking had time to think about it.
For sure.
Anyway, so the stats are less interesting than why you think the stats are what they are, because that tells me what your... like, it tells me more about you, you know, and why you have the opinions you have than...
which is more valuable in getting you to perform a desired outcome.
Yeah.
Than knowing what the stats are.
Exactly. So, you know, if you understand people, you know how to market to them, you know how to give them what they want in order to get what you want. And you can... I mean, this is something you don't have to be even really that smart. You just have to, like, know how to do it. You can print money in this world. Like, there are lots and lots of people who are making a lot of fucking money while being completely incompetent. You know, like, the number of people who are either doing nothing and getting paid, or dramatically doing less than they're supposed to be doing and getting paid, or or just like causing money to move around, like setting up a circuit for money and then not even doing anything after that point. The amount of people living that way is massive, and they're all people like this. They're all people who say, oh, like, I see that there's a structure here and that all I have to do is, plug and play, basically. But, like, that is a very boring way of life, And it basically requires you to care about nothing but money. Like, if you look at the world and you say, oh, I can make a lot of money by just living this life, then, that means that all you care about is making money, because you don't care about what your life is going to be, But there are people who are capable of seeing that structure and saying, oh, well, I don't want to live a boring life where all I do is work for money. I want to live a life where I make enough money for me to be comfortable with and get to do whatever I want as much of the time as possible, And I want to make that money through the most exciting means, or the most, the means that I would be most okay with, for the trade-off of what I'm going to get out of it, So basically, if you have that split sense of, like, I understand how to make money and how, like, why people will, what compels people to trade money, but my goal in life is not simply to have as much money as possible. It is to find an interesting, unique way to make, an amount of money that I'm comfortable, that will make me live comfortably,
This is a deviation from the norm.
Yeah. So this is a type of
imbalancement.
Yeah. This is the type of person that I feel like I relate to most easily. And the reason I'm talking about that is that, like, there's this weird frustration when you're that kind of person that you feel towards everybody else for, like, not see, like, you can see why everybody is getting fucked over, because they're not looking at the world the way you are. You are either outside of the system, and either you're somebody who's perpetuating it, or you are enslaved by it, unless you are, unless you're managing your involvement yourself, And, like, granted, most of us are on some level enslaved by it, in the sense that, like, I'm afraid to die, so I'm not going to just literally, do anything I want and fuck what anybody cares, and the government's gonna come kill me, like, you know what I mean? Like, most of us are kowtowing on some level, but, like, you can either be somebody who is like, oh, I can't fight the system, so I'm gonna be the guy turning the gears and fucking all you people over, or you could say, or you just have no idea. You're just in it. You don't even realize that you're a slave, And the people who are...
Yes, all of the porns has corrupted you, and you now are complacent.
Yes.
In the capitalist machine.
So the people who are looking at it from that more broad perspective are just like, you guys, if you would just listen to me, I'm trying to help you by telling you how you can be like them or like me, but, like, you don't seem to want to listen, and I don't remember why I'm talking about this anymore.
We're talking about the mentality of the corporations and CEOs who are getting scared into jumping themselves into
that's the thing.
Streaming services.
It's like they somehow they don't actually know the rules of the game. That's what I'm trying to kind of get at. You can get successful without actually knowing what you did. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Maddox, perfect example. Maddox is a person who thinks that he understands the rules of the game and that he's been successful through that, but his success is actually incidental, and in spite of that, it has little to do with his own actions, and every decision he's made has been wrong.
And we can draw a straight parallel to Maddox to one of the earliest streaming platforms that has kind of lodged itself into a market share, just like a share of the nerd market, just because it was there early, just because it has brand recognition. Crunchyroll. Company who's been fucking up.
I thought you were going to say YouTube.
Bad PR. I mean, YouTube too, but YouTube's not a streaming service, although they are attempting to.
They're both examples because, okay, well, here's the thing about the advantage YouTube has is that YouTube does basically just listen to an AI algorithm. Its algorithm is fucking terrible. The algorithm of YouTube sucks. It is shit. The only reason YouTube is successful is that they did not have competition in their field, and they still don't have meaningful competition because the way the algorithm works is that it will I mean, it's exactly what you'd expect that WBAI to come up with.
Its priority is not the user end. It's to mine data off of people. It's to figure out, to track people, and to get them to just spend endless amounts of time on their platform. It's not to make their time on the platform more enjoyable. It's not to help you find good content.
It's the kind of thing that it will always have diminishing returns because YouTube promotes more of the same. It always wants you to keep watching what you're already watching. And that works in a sitting, but it doesn't work long term. And it's why people lose interest, and people lose interest in the channels they've subscribed to. I'll go on these binges where I'll just spend all this time trying to find new channels, and I finally find one. And I'll watch all their content, and then everything I get recommended is something related to that. And I'll check out other stuff, and usually I don't like any of it, but if maybe I'll find a couple channels and I'll subscribe to them, and then it's possible I'll never watch those channels again because I just get tired of that content. I don't want to see the same shit over and fucking over again, and that's all it recommends me. Oh, you watched a video about this? Here's 10 more about the same thing. You watched a video about this? And, like, I think that it has worked because of the fact that it was so new that, like, there was no, for the longest time, we were all figuring out what the formula is for having success with this algorithm. But now that everybody understands how to make content for the algorithm, then the algorithm is just a self-perpetuating machine. It's always going to keep giving you the same shit because people are always going to keep making the same shit until they start losing subscribers. And that's going to happen if it's not already.
Right.
Like, it's going to happen where people are just going to get tired of watching the same fucking shit all the time, But, like, YouTube is also bolstered by the fact that its powerful channels carry the platform. Because if somebody, I've said this many times, like, Casey Neistat will get as many views with one video as I will in, 2 years. Like, I don't even need to exist, in comparison to him. Because, like, the people carrying the platform are the super big channels. And that's the only reason that YouTube lives. All it would take is for and this fucking blows my mind, that these people have not all been picked up by major sponsorships or other platforms there's no way that somebody can't outpay these platforms, like, I don't know. I know PewDiePie makes a lot of money, right? He makes a pretty fucking good amount of money. He does not make an amount of money that even remotely comes close to the level of influence he has on culture. Like, people who are in films that are seen by, like, the tiniest fraction of amount of time that he is seen for, like, get paid vastly more. Like, he's not well paid the way that, like, rich, famous people in Hollywood are well paid, even though he's extremely well paid.
Is that true? Like,
there was I don't know how it is right now because he's grown so much, but
and also he's paid by other people too, not just people.
Yeah, no, he's paid. But I'm saying I don't know what he makes right now, but when he had like 50 million subs, something like that, he had a year where his reported earnings were $4 million that year. Mm-hmm. $4 million is what a lead actor will get paid to star in one film.
Right.
Like, and they could do multiples of those in a year. Like, there's no way. I mean, maybe now he's making exponentially more, but even still, like, you know, to at that level have been making that much less than what I know to be regular in other industries. It's just like there's no way he's making as much as he should be, you know, for the scale of his influence. As compared to, not to say that I think he should be making that much money, but just, you know, in as much as it's baffling that no other company has taken advantage of this, you know, that these old media conglomerates that have all this money to throw around at things that are big and influential, I really think they look at all these people and say, that's pop, it's a bubble, it's going to burst. There's no sense. PewDiePie has no talent. Nobody's going to care about him in 5-10 years. Well, turns out they do.
Weren't, like, the Logan and whatever, his brother, weren't they, like, Disney
They were
stars?
They were former Disney stars, yes.
So, like, you are even seeing
it could be, I mean, that's
there.
Actually... You're right. They might be a good example.
New media. I think PewDiePie has kind of distanced himself from traditional media.
Could
the
be.
fact that he's demonized for his actions by traditional media.
Yeah.
They're afraid of him. He's kind of a symbol of, like...
But that's just because they want to turn... rather than embracing him, they want to demonize him so that people will say, oh, YouTube's a bad place. Like, we won't...
And those articles
TV
end up
'cause
getting
YouTube's
more
bad.
traction than other things that they have.
Right.
Their other exclusive information. I just really think that traditional media has shot itself in the foot for really kind of being the dominant force in the media industry for these upcoming generations to come, because they've been so slow to embrace what people want. And yeah, I definitely think people were like, oh, YouTube, that's just a fad, especially with the height of viral videos, because I think they saw that and they're like, oh, a YouTube video is just that's just all viral videos.
Mm-hmm.
Not really catching on to the fact that people were creating careers until it was too late. And I think at some point it's like this happens so fast that they're scared. Yeah. They're like, we're not getting people to sit in front of the TV as much anymore. Like, we're not getting these kids to stay here. They're watching fucking PewDiePie.
It baffles me that there's not people out there looking for not even those million sub channels, but like, you know, channels with like even people like me who are like these mid-range like sort of talent figures that could easily get picked up and have anything done with us.
We
you know?
see some crossover with another, not really like a traditional media outlet, but Crunchyroll working with YouTubers.
Yeah, but okay, so now let's...
This
now
is
we
just
can start
because
talking
I
about Crunchyroll.
only know anime news because I have a fucking bracelet.
Let's get to talking about Crunchyroll because, yes, Crunchyroll works with people, but they do the exact opposite of what I'm talking about. Like, Crunchyroll is a bathroom hand job.
It's skeevy.
Of a company.
Yeah.
They are... Crunchyroll is like, you know, we'll make you come. as a whole, on all fronts. As a streaming service, you know, I mean, they got anime.
Crunchyroll is a porn site. And all of its contracted workers are porn stars.
They got anime and it's legal too. Everything we got is legal. You know? It's like...
Don't worry, we just coerced
companies. ever since they started cracking down, it's like, you know, have you ever seen Gangs of New York?
No.
All right, well, do you know about how New York used to just be nothing but gangs? Like, it used to just be like a total Wild West city, basically, right? It was a fucking free-for-all of gang warfare. But, you know, over the decades, increased police presence has made it less dangerous and Wild Westy. It's like, you know, they were like one of those gangs, and now they've had to they've had to go straight.
And now they're the president.
But they're like, you know, it's similar to like when you go to Crunchyroll to watch anime, it's like going to U-Haul, you know? It's like, they're gonna find a way to fuck me, you know, like.
You log in and you're like, oh, it's $1 more this month to use this site. Oh, they still haven't updated the player.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting shitty emails about Asterix War every week.
I don't think they still do that.
I don't fucking know. I don't fucking pay for Crunchyroll, and I haven't for years.
I thought I was giving you money to fund the anime industry, but instead I'm funding the Crunchyroll Awards. If you have ever contributed to Crunchyroll in any way, then you have directly, in some fashion, funded Mother's Basement's plane ticket to the Crunchyroll Awards.
Oh, and that anime they're gonna make.
And
their
also the
studio.
anime.
What was it called?
High Guardian Spice.
High Guardian Spice, whose origins is still in limbo. Apparently, as of the release of this, I haven't checked in like a month or so, but they've completed production on it. But I think VRV does
Hold
not.
on. Let me expand on what I said, just for technicality's sake, because I could hear like the furious autistic typing of Miles from Crunchyroll in the distance, and so I just want to clarify that what I mean is, any dollar Crunchyroll has ever earned has contributed to their continued existence and therefore is connected to everything that they've ever done.
And is not likely to be a dollar that has been, used
not
to
literally the same dollar.
The people who translate
a dollar is a
stuff.
concept. The paper does not actually have value. It is the concept of the dollar that has
not
value,
that
which is
anybody
why
is
the
giving
value of the paper
physical
fluctuates
dollars
constantly.
to Crunchyroll.
If you think of a dollar as the same dollar, you are literally retarded. That is not what a dollar is. A dollar is abstract. That's why you can have dollars without them existing physically.
Yes.
I mean, it is backed somewhere by gold, supposedly.
That's a fucking urban legend, dude.
We gotta storm fucking... When is America gonna wise up and storm the Federal Reserve? Like...
This video was taken down for terrorism.
Dick's talked about it a few times, but I think that it hasn't grown any legs as a meme, and it's really a shame. We need to storm the Federal Reserve and take our money back. And then use that money to buy a new government.
Or do what the sovereign citizens do.
What I mean by buy a new government
sell
is,
back your
by the
birth
way,
certificate.
fire everyone in the government and then hold an America's Got Talent competition for new government. Like, well, literally, if you want to be a government, you line up in a big line and we'll broadcast it and the entire nation will vote via phone in what government role, if you get to have your government role that you want.
That would be terrible. Do you know who America would pick?
We would pick a very soulful...
We'd pick, like, Guy Fieri or some shit.
No, we'd pick somebody with a real soulful voice.
No.
And a tragic backstory.
No. We'd probably pick
Oprah.
Gay. We'd probably pick
We'd probably pick a gay. We'd probably have a gay president if we went, Adam Lambert won. So there you go.
Adam Lambert for president 2020. It's official.
I'd vote.
We'll make you come.
We'll make you come. Right, we're talking about Crunchyroll. So I just want to, for starters, I'm on this website, Glassdoor, where employees can review places that they've worked for. And I've been reading through Crunchyroll reviews, which is quite entertaining. But the real reason that we started this whole podcast is because of this controversy, I guess, that's been on Twitter, where people have been talking about how Crunchyroll does not pay their translators as well as they're meant to be paid by other
the origins
services.
Of how this went about was Miles from Crunchyroll. This is from my sources, by the way, because the original tweet was deleted. Miles from Crunchyroll had tweeted a picture of him in the new office and is like, "New office, gang." And somebody quote tweeted him and said, should I just read the tweet?
If you want.
I'll find the tweet because I think it's very important to this discussion.
Well, I'll summarize what I think the tweet says while you look for it, which is essentially, because I don't want to have to edit.
I could do it really fast.
Which is essentially that Crunchyroll is not paying their subbers, their translators, subtitlers.
All right, Just a reminder that the contractors who actually translate shows for Crunchyroll get paid $80 per episode without benefits, while a lot of other people at the company make close to six-figure salaries. You don't need a new office. You need to pay translators living wages.
There you go. Which sounds about in line with the way that Crunchyroll is talked about in some of these here posts. I just want to read this one because I particularly enjoyed it, especially for the title. The most demoralizing tech company in Silicon Valley that I've ever worked for. Can you imagine being the most demoralizing company in Silicon Valley to work for? This guy says, I worked at Crunchyroll. He gives it 1 star, doesn't recommend, has a negative outlook, and disapproves of CEO. This is as negative as a review can be. So, the pros. 401k matching, annual bonus, some good people who've stuck around, free subscription to Crunchyroll and VRV, fun, cute Netflix/YouTube-like industry for video and media and vibe, and $200 a month commuter benefit. The cons. Very old and outdated system, infrastructure, and mindsets. No attempt at retaining talent. Crunchyroll lives off of passion pay, basically exploiting the fans who were lured to come work here over other places that offer much better lifestyle pay and career growth. 100% top-down approach to every decision ever. Leadership and decision-making very much removed from the actual audience demographic. No real ways to voice concerns or speak up about anything. And layoffs. So they just are an anime company. Like, they are perfectly aligned with their heritage, I guess, with the other side of the pond. It's a passion pay economy. I loved that phrase because, so, Crunchyroll, as we all know, was originally an illegal streaming site that had a payment system, so extremely illegal. Arguably, everyone who was involved with the website before that point should be in jail for massive, massive copyright fraud. But somehow they turned over a new leaf, made a bunch of deals, and became the premier legal streaming site for anime at a time when not only is anime not on the few major streaming sites there are, but there's not a ton of major streaming sites. So way ahead of the curve. However...
When did Crunchyroll actually go legal?
I want to say 2009, because I think I wrote a blog post about it around then. But it took a couple years before they really had shit, Yeah. But like early on, when they first went legal, they had like 2 or 3 shows, from like whatever they were allowed from a few companies. But they slowly started picking up seasonals and stuff like that. But
I think that really the simulcasting is what brought a lot of people over, because that's why I, signed up. I
mean, the simulcasting was sort of a revolutionary idea for how to release anime legally, but it just is an idea that was come up with by fansubbers. The thing is that Crunchyroll, from the sounds of things, have not really adapted or grown since that point. They basically got in early, got the name recognition, rose their brand profile and made more money, but have not changed and grown and gotten better or done things any differently over this long period of time.
But they've had a lot of PR optics. Like, they get involved with YouTubers. They have a convention. They tried to make their own anime.
And they're doing all that instead of paying people better. So, when they first started off, a lot of the people they had hired, and I don't know if this is still true, but I'm sure it is on some level, were people who were fansubbers. People who already were translating and subtitling anime regularly, and now they're just getting paid to do it. But the thing is that they were doing a job that they weren't getting paid for because this service didn't exist otherwise. Crunchyroll can hire anybody. Anybody who can do translation and subtitles, they can hire. They can run their business the same way that other people run their business, where they pay them the amount that they should be paid, the market value of their work, and hire them full time. But they choose not to because it's easier to not do that. And in the early days, I'm sure that their excuse would have been, we're a small company, we're a startup, we can't afford to do that. Or even just basically, like, that it was just intended to be shady from the start, that, like, yeah, we're not going to do that properly because it'll save us money at this juncture where we don't have money. And... and then, like, just not increase the pay long term, never bring it up to a standard level because there are people who will do this just because they think it's fun to get to subtitle anime. But, like, if you look at the career on their site, this is what it says: translator and subtitler, Japanese, content and ops team, San Francisco or remote. It's a part-time contractor. If you work as this job, you're a part-time contractor for Crunchyroll.
So just a side note, starting this year, the California state law regarding contracting has kind of clamped down. So they are required to, I think, give benefits now and also pay at least a minimum wage.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that is going to impact. I don't know how long subtitlers or translators actually spend working, and I don't know how they'd be able to track that, especially if they're remote workers, or if they would be held to that. You know?
So it's a question of what we don't know how the law will affect it, but it could, and so a lot of what we're going to say could change. But But it says, so currently it's part-time contractor. We're looking for highly motivated individuals who can localize our Japanese content to English-speaking audiences. Responsibilities: time, translate, typeset, and or quality check anime and live-action titles to English, both catalog and simulcast. Potentially translate manga to English. Translate web pages and other static text to Japanese. So that seems like a lot of stuff that they, not only do they absolutely need these things on a regular basis, since the entire worth of their website is that they translate anime. This is the only job that they need anybody to do. This is the only important job at Crunchyroll, is to subtitle the anime. And they don't have a regular staff
people who are
to
able
do that.
To pick up the anime and like get into contact with the Japanese companies are important too. But like literally, those are the two most important jobs to make.
They don't have a full. I mean, in as much as like you said, getting it done and fast. I mean, fan subbers can fan sub this stuff. We don't need it to be on Crunchyroll. The main benefit is that it gets subbed immediately. You're willing to pay for that, but they don't even have a full-time team doing it. They just have random people they're paying contract wages, even though those people are also translating their manga and website. So they're doing more than just this one contract job. I mean, I don't know if they just get paid for every single individual thing they do, but it would be a part-time.
Yeah, I don't know if they're getting paid per, like, you're working on an episode, you get this amount, or you're spending this many minutes. Are you part-time
or are you a contractor? I didn't think you could be both.
It just seems like fucking sketchy that they'd have it as part-time contractor, because it's like,
well, so here's the part I really wanted to focus on.
Employee, like,
the part I wanted to focus on is the requirements. Fluency in Japanese, both writing and speaking. Fluency in English, both writing and speaking. Excellent communication skills. Ability to work with aggressive deadlines for simulcasts. Familiarity with Aegisub and .ssa subtitle format. And experience subtitling anime and or manga is a big plus. Doesn't that seem like a level of requirement that should imply a full... You have to have fluency in Japanese and English. Do you know what you are worth? You could just go be an English teacher in Japan if you wanted to at that level. They'll hire you just for being fluent in both, or even really just for being fluent in English.
Yeah. I mean, there are more important things that you could be translating. Government documents, any kind of like serious business or news documents.
Just go be a fan subber. Don't even fucking bother.
Well, I mean, if it's passion that's driving you to do this.
That's the thing. This is so. I wanted to bring up that the biggest problem here. You said when I said to you, maybe Crunchyroll will, like I said, they probably will pay those people better because this is a bad look, right? PR wise, like if people make a big enough deal out of it, if it spreads as a meme, they'll probably fix it because they don't want the bad optics. But you pointed out they don't have to hire these people. They could easily hire people from somewhere else from another country that'll work cheaper.
Oh yeah, Latin America. They're hiring people they're not like hiring people in the area to do this. They're hiring remote contractors to work for them.
Right.
There's an infinite pool of people in Brazil.
They have to be able to understand Japanese and English fluently.
What do you think that entails? Like, how do you think they hire these people?
I mean, they have to be. These people are translating and subtitling, so it's not just getting a script. Like, they have to translate it.
No, they have translators and subtitlers.
It says right here, yes, this role is translator and subtitler.
Well, I saw in the comments of the response to this that they had people who were doing the subtitling specifically and then people who were translating for the episodes. So that person wasn't doing both. But I'm just saying they're not having like an in-person interview of these people. They're probably just doing it over the phone. Right. I just think that there is a lot of people, or are a lot of people, who would meet the requirements for this, who have been inspired by just seeing that Crunchyroll is able to hire people to translate, that anime is translated and that's how they consume it. They go in and learn Japanese. Like, there's a lot of people who I think are, in the process of studying Japanese to go into fields like this. I think that there's people, especially like there was already a wave that they are now employed by them, but I just think there's lots of people who would jump at the opportunity to work for this company.
I don't know how. I think it's possible that most people who are qualified to do this job would scoff at the amount that they're paying, and that it's only because the people they have are anime fans who want to be able to work on legal anime. Yeah. That are working for them.
Well, I mean, we're looking at anime fans. Like, it says excommunication skills right here, but, like, we are talking about anime fans.
Right.
Like, people who probably spent a lot of time watching anime illegally, reading fan subs, possibly even being fan subs if they're asking for experience. Like, you're not going to go from Funimation, who pays you more, to Crunchyroll.
I'm just wondering, like, okay, Crunchyroll, here are the options they could go with. They could raise the salaries of the people they currently have if those people complained. But we don't even know if it's those people who are necessarily complaining so much as the populace in general. If the populace in general is complaining and they have to fight that optics, then they can't just hire new people for just as cheap, because then we'll still be complaining that those people are being underpaid. Like, it's still bad optics. It's just a question of, will the people who are actually themselves getting paid care or not? Like, is it them who's mad, or is it people who are just mad that they underpay their translators in general?
I think a lot of the outrage that we're seeing online are people getting mad on the behalf of people who've accepted these working conditions.
Exactly.
Like, on the original thread, there are a bunch of people who are saying that, yes, this is a true representation of how we are being paid, but, like, I'm continuing to do this because this is my passion. Like, I have fun doing this. Like, originally I thought that I would be able to do this as a side gig, but it's 2 times
Here's the problem, is that, like, those people may feel that way, but for those of us who understand the way that the market works, by doing that, you drive down the value of the work that you're doing. And this is why unions exist in general. Like, why there is, people who form these things where it's like, you are not supposed to charge less than this amount that's been agreed on by everybody, because so my buddy Don-san, he used to do computer repairs, like, just for, extra cash on Craigslist or whatever. But he said he would never do it during the summer, because during the summer, all of the college kids are off, and they'll all do it for super cheap because they're just looking for a little pocket money. They don't even care if they're, like, working harder than they need to. They just don't want to get a job, So they will use... Yeah. They have the skill, but they'll give it away for cheap. And so anybody who has the skill and needs the money...
And if you're a fan subber and you're doing it for free anyways, why not make some money?
Yeah, is the mindset that they're having. But, like, for other people, it's like, hey, idiots, you could ask for a fucking raise, and then everybody would be better off, including you, Like, it's the difference between, like I said, if one person is upset with their being underpaid versus if it's a scandal that they're underpaying people, and whether those people care or not, we as fans can say, like, well, I'm not going, like, I understand that the translators are okay with this situation, but I'm not okay with the situation. I don't want my money going to Miles to have his new office. I want it going to that guy getting paid what he's supposed to get paid. I don't give a fuck what he has to say.
And
about
I
it,
also
you know?
want it to go into the backlog of all the fucking typos and misspellings and all of your other old work.
Making the shit on your website good.
Work.
Instead of fucking parties in San Francisco and all the other bullshit I know you guys are getting up to. Let's read some more reviews from people
Reviews.
Oh yeah. So one of the reviews that was really interesting on the Crunchyroll page. So let me read over. On Glassdoor, Crunchyroll has a 3.2 rating. They have a 53% recommendation to a friend. That means 53% of people would recommend them. 47% approve of the CEO. But one of the reviews says, go look at Elation reviews. He says, I worked at Crunchyroll full-time for more than a year. Don't be fooled by the higher rating here. Go check out Elation reviews. Those are more updated and tell you what kind of place this company actually is. So you go to the Elation reviews. That's the parent company, of course, of Crunchyroll. And
CEO.
It's got a 2.7 stars, 48% recommend to a friend, and only 33% approve of CEO. The general, this website has an interesting way of it groups all like pros and cons that have showed up in a bunch of reviews. So the pros that have showed up in 15 and 13 reviews respectively are, if you like anime, you'll get to be around people who like anime, and I've worked on Elation at Elation on the Crunchyroll side for 1
year, probably.
Yeah, it just says 1, and then it says that sentence appears in 13 reviews. The cons: not even upper management has a clue, let alone regular managers. It's obvious to anyone with eyeballs and a brain that Warner has no interest in Elation, Crunchyroll, or VRV except for the assets they can strip out. That appears in 8 reviews. 8 different people said that, apparently. So I mean, there are positive reviews in here, nonetheless.
I just wish it would tell you
not the worst place to work.
Position these people had.
Yeah.
Because there are people who are obviously working more on the tech side, more on the PR side, and then more on just the translating.
This guy from in October 17th, he said, cons: Elation is trying to rebuild the motor on a boat that's on fire. Everyone that sees the fire is jumping overboard. The rest are too focused on the motor to realize. Avoid the engineering, design, and product teams. High stress and toxic. Everyone is overwhelmed by the recent changes. Lots of pressure to deliver. Lots of uncertainty and doubt. Leaders struggle to make decisions. Morale is low. Emotions are heated. Talented employees that have been fired or leave get replaced with temporary contractors. Limited opportunities for advancement. Execs that think a beer pong tournament will improve morale rather than addressing issues. Warner Media is starting to realize it's impossible to build quality products under these conditions. They're starting to migrate Elation employees to HBO Max. There's speculation that this consolidation will continue. Why waste money on multiple development teams to build separate mobile TV websites and products for HBO Max, Crunchyroll, and VRV when Warner Media can focus all efforts into one platform?
Certainly.
I love the analysis in all of these. Let's see this guy. Beware, mostly smoke and mirrors. I've been working at Elation full-time for more than a year. Everybody says that the pros are always fun office environment, some cool people. It's hip branding, it's the same. You're in Silicon Valley. You can get that anywhere. Come the fuck on. It can't be that much of a fucking pro. Jesus Christ. Anyway,
my coworkers can talk about my hero with me. I can't get there anywhere else.
Cons: terrible communication in teams and between teams, lots of long emails with ideas but no resolution, no ownership and lots of turfing and shirking off projects and responsibilities, poor execution executive leadership, lots of clicks, limited to no vision or strategy, especially now that the company has been acquired. Everything at this company is extremely overworked and has too much on their plate. No formal process in place. Everything is a frenzied free-for-all. Reporting structures make no sense and key projects are understaffed, underfunded, or supported by volunteers who come and go as they please or as projects interest them. Recruiters are charming and quick talking. I bet. Know how to show you what they want you to see, but once you start working here, you'll see the truth, which is a bunch of smoke and mirrors. Employees want rewards and kudos when they haven't done much or really have just done what they're supposed to do based on their role. Rampant bullying. Persistent questions of who is really in charge and whose direction should we be following. Warner? AT&T? Otter? Advice to management: this company will be in for a huge shock once Warner Media and AT&T fully take over. Stop pretending to be better than you are.
Oh boy, how recent are these?
These are all from last year.
Oh, that's kind of recent too.
The ones I've read so far on the Elation side have been from October, November, and August. Whereas the two that are positive are the featured reviews by Elation. I mean by the website. This company is all sorts of screwed up. Talent and skill are not awarded here, tenure is. You can easily tell the ones who have it great and love it here all have been at this company since the dawn of time. There's no transparency at all for anyone that is not an executive or part of upper management, and many people are leaving whenever they get a chance. Some also just disappear overnight and are never talked about again. No one really knows why. My guess is that they're downsizing drastically since that huge merger happened, and to avoid headlines and bad press, they're blaming things on some of these employees and getting rid of them that way. Upper management and executives are ignorant about who is actually competent versus who is barely qualified to make coffee. Certain management have zero knowledge in their supposed realm of expertise and base performance on how much you love anime or how good you are at pleasing your higher-ups. Communication is non-existent. Worse, instead of working together, certain department heads encourage being difficult to other teams to prove a petty argument. Like, really? Is this grade school? The worst part about this place is how downright malicious some people are. Some of these problem managers will give subordinates a hard time and disguise it as training an employee, but don't expect HR to resolve anything. They listen and then dismiss issues altogether so nothing ever improves. The only thing you can rely on HR for is weird seminars or activities that don't resolve any real problems in the workplace, like finding out your workplace personality. Like, okay? Basically, if you love anime and want an honest work environment, do yourself a favor and avoid this place entirely. You'll hate anime if you end up working here. Crunchyroll sounds like a great place to work because who doesn't love anime, but in reality it's a crapshoot. It's a terrible company full of immature bullies that will expect you to suck up to them because they've been here longer than you. If you can't do that, you'll inevitably lose your job for not being a team player. All of the reviews from this past year are one-star negative reviews.
Seems like after that merger,
every single one.
It really... Lots of downsizing.
Yeah.
Lots of just uncertainty about, like, the fate of the company.
This one's called Low Pay, Lots of Hours. Underpaid. You will work long hours, have an obnoxious amount of meetings that don't lead anywhere towards anything. They spend a lot of money. Miles did mention that they have, like, that every day he has to sit through, like, a 3-hour meeting or something. And, like, he also made it out like he was the only person at the company who watched anime in the first place. So... I don't know what that's about.
Believe it. It literally seems like a fucking sketchy-ass company.
They spend a lot of money on things that aren't helping them reach goals. I would never recommend this place to even the biggest anime fan unless they want to be a part of the Mean Girls environment. It also seems like there's just a bunch of assholes at this company. That seems to be a common theme. Department heads fake nice to each other and go to their teams and encourage being difficult to other teams. Anime is a difficult industry and this is a difficult company. If you do work there, you will find out quickly who is favored at this company. I mean, it sounds like it's just like... The people who've been there forever are just fucking bitter. It
seems like Warner is probably going to get control of, sadly, Crunchyroll, which is, I don't see that working out well. Like, I'm kind of curious about Funimation's reviews.
I'm guessing this was around the time of the merger. It says, don't let the featured review fool you. You never knew who you're working for from 1 minute to the next. VRV, Crunchyroll, Otter, Warner Media, AT&T, not even upper management has a clue, let alone regular managers. Cross-team communication is a joke. Everyone is doing their own thing. Morale is the worst out of any company I've ever worked for.
It really does not seem like paying their translator more is at the fucking top of the totem pole of problems this company has.
I think they might just be completely
and
fucked.
This is like an honest projection that I have possibly in how we, consume anime in the future through streaming is like a lot of stuff is just being there's AI for everything. And like, the possibility of having somebody developing software that can interpret Japanese and like roughly translate it and then just having somebody edit it seems like it could be something very feasible in the next couple of years. So, like, I don't know. I don't even know if we'll need translators.
Oh, I think, I think AI is going to eventually make this a pointless. I mean, there'll always be certain I don't know. I don't know if an AI will ever be easier because there's so much, like, terminology in anime that it'd have to work around. But,
yeah, but they could just they could make the process a lot easier.
Yeah, I'm sure
they
could.
Oh, here, we already have it preemptively translated. You just have to proofread and fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know. I just see like that companies like Crunchyroll would want to move forward with that kind of.
I don't think Crunchyroll is going to be moving forward with
I
shit.
think Crunchyroll. We'll see Crunchyroll close down, possibly.
Let me
by
read
the
you
time
this one.
we reach
from April 20th of last year. Don't even bother is the title. The pros: Glassdoor forces me to add 5 words. And the cons: it's a place for all creativity and ambition to die. Look elsewhere.
Beautiful.
Advice to management: we know you're all on retainer and are bailing once the ship starts to sink. Just leave. I could read these all day. This is way more entertaining than I even expected.
There's so many.
History of sexual harassment and driving people to exhaustion / shipped jobs overseas.
Ago.
Okay,
well,
yeah.
This more like
2018, November 10th.
Yeah.
Cons: people told gay jokes in the office during Pride Month. There's a history of incidents of sexual harassment by senior male staff as well as rank-and-file workers towards women, some leading to dismissals, some apparently not. The company also drove a bunch of teams to a death march to ship a new version of software, then laid off dozens of people and sent their jobs to a company in Moldova, owned by the interim CTO immediately after the deadline was met. Tacky and cruel. Do you think this was my fault? Is that the new version of software?
I mean, I assume so,
HTML?
But they probably, I don't know.
That was November 10th. Well, they said that they did that, then fired a bunch of people and sent their jobs to a company in Moldova. Tacky and cruel. Yeah, right. Should I keep reading these?
I mean, you can.
I love them. I love them.
I just feel like Crunchyroll as a company definitely got very cocky last year, in 2018 when they
had way better reviews before that. They had way more positive reviews.
They were very positive about it. They were trying to make their own, their own content. They were trying to really make a difference.
Hold on, I love this. From August 4th, 2017. Selfish management chases out good employees. Pros: good benefits and free food. Cons: you are all disposable. I've seen great employees that we needed chased out, no real rhyme or reason. Marketing team spends tons of money to hire people who each do one individual job, and while other teams are hurting for help. VRV marketing team totally disbanded, leaving the product and brand awareness to die, and convention planning teams drowning trying to get CRX up. I've watched good employees trying to do their best to keep things running and being negged into submission, while people who have no right being managers are promoted and given power they don't know how to use, and uses other employees as scapegoats when their promises fall through. Sounds like there's just been a constant problem of bad management and not recognizing the talent that they have at their company. That was brought up a lot of times,
Yeah. I implore you to look at Funimation because I am curious about how it compares.
This is now the We Read Glassdoor.
I mean, it's fascinating.
Of anime companies.
Because, if Disney's gonna get into anime.
Oh, boy. Funimation
has a 2.5.
With a 2.5 rating, a 28% recommend to a friend, and 46% approve of CBO. They don't hate him as much as the other guy, Gen Fukunaga. I've heard that name before. All right, well, let's see. Where do we find the bad reviews?
There might be a bigger company too.
See all 46 reviews. Let's see. Anyone who thinks this place is 5 stars is a shill account is the name of the first review, which is a 3 stars. Not so bad.
They worked at Funimation full-time for more than 8
years. 8 years. It says, pros: if you like anime and geek culture, it's a great place. Cons: low pay, expected to juggle many jobs, many mid-level and high-level executives that have no idea what to do but love being in power. Anyone above the ground level don't actually care about the product and don't know how to actually sell it. Big fucking surprise there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. This is why the streaming bubble is going to burst, is that the people in charge don't understand how to market the product. No. They don't understand what people want, how to, get it into their purview, how to make people care. They have no fucking idea what they're doing. And this has been obvious from the start because they don't do anything. Funimation and Crunchyroll, they just take things that are already getting popular and just promote those more,
I can give them credit because they brought the Konosuba movie, which is kind of I was surprised to see that Crunchyroll.
But they didn't catch on to it until it was already successful.
Oh yeah, and I mean Funimation had already been doing
when an anime season starts, then all it takes is, look, Beastars was a Netflix show that wasn't even aired in the whole time of its running. Still very popular show. People find out about these shows. They know about them because they hear about the manga. They hear the word of mouth. They know and they already care.
And it's going to drop on Netflix, and everybody has access to Netflix.
And Netflix doesn't give a shit because Netflix doesn't have to worry about anime. They don't care about the anime.
It isn't, like, stuffy about it. Yeah. It's not like, oh, we're doing something for the anime industry. But, it's just a platform for the shit.
Like, Funimation, they will, if they recognize that a show has that kind of hype, they'll give it a simuldub, But, like, I just think they fucking...
Although they went a little overboard of simuldubbing. Like, IMO...
Yeah. Anyway, let me read the rest of this. The company manages to survive in spite of itself because of the hard work of the low-level workers who actually care. Those are the workers that are underpaid and undervalued. Well, that definitely sounds like the company. Anime industry. Yeah. Deadlines don't matter. This guy gives it a 1 star. He worked there full-time for more than a year. Pros, free merchandise giveaways, that's all. Cons. No work-life balance. Management piles on the endless cookie-cutter projects and refuses to hire contractors or even more full-time employees to even out the load. The only reason I stayed here for 2 years was because the company was pretty lenient about hours as long as deadlines were met for projects, which was tough. Shortly after the Sony acquisition, I was told by HR that the deadlines no longer matter and that what matters is being on time and leaving on time. I spent almost 2 years giving 60-plus hours a week trying to make sure that every deadline is met on time, just to be told that all that hard work doesn't matter because I wanted a little bit of flexibility in my hours. Well, that's shit. Let's see, Nightmare Job. I worked at Funimation full-time for more than 3 years. Pros, fairly flexible hours. Some of the people are all right. Cons, management, bad pay, office politics, Sony ownership, and pretty much everything. Advice to management. Get actual management. Hire people who know what they're doing. Pay your people well. Treat them right and don't dismiss their problems. Stop luring people in with the whole but you're working with anime shtick. Hiring fans and mistreating them is a horrible way to run a company. Promote people who deserve it. Funimation was a great place to work years ago, and even then it had serious issues. With their recent hiring choices and Sony's acquisition, this place is going down fast. Bad business decisions, horrible management, and the worst HR. Good luck getting any help with harassment claims or benefit issues. HR has no idea what they're doing and will blab your personal business to anyone who listens. Seriously, do not let your love of anime cloud your decision. This is not a dream job. This is a nightmarish hellscape that will squeeze you dry and throw you away like you're nothing. God damn. Well, it sounds like these two services have been bought out and are already being driven into the ground by the shitty management that they already had colliding with the shitty management of these
Sony seems like
buyers.
It's doing better than Warner Brothers, who I have seen throw away their acquisitions. Yeah,
well, I mean, Sony is so fucking huge.
Sony has way more to do with the anime industry than
that's
Warner
definitely
Brothers.
True. I mean, if I was Sony,
and that's why we're seeing Funimation pick up more shows than Crunchyroll.
To quote that guy on the Crunchyroll side, who was like, "All that Warner cares about is stripping all the assets." I think that's what Sony cares about. Like, I think Sony's probably going to get. I mean, Funimation has IPs. Sony's going to strip those IPs out and put them on something else. Like, fuck Funimation, because these companies, if they were run well, would not need these buyouts. They could have been successful, you know. You don't sell your company when you're on top of the world unless you are getting offered an amazing price, you know. You sell it when things aren't going so well and you need the assistance, you know. You don't think that you're going to make it on your own. So I think both of these companies are going to have a downturn, and I don't know if there will be a success from what takes their place. And the thing is, I mean, particularly in these cases, really in all of these cases, all these platforms, they're so privileged. Like, they think that because they're doing this great service of providing you the ability to watch something
and enabling employees to work with anime.
Who gives a fuck? Like I could get that stuff without you at all. You know, like, I don't need you to exist in any way for me to get anything. None of these streaming services. I don't need any of them. And that's the entitlement that drives me insane. And like Netflix, they're not out there fucking complaining about piracy. Netflix doesn't give a flying fuck about piracy. They have enough shit, enough people. They're not worried about... They combat piracy by having a better service than piracy. It's hard to pirate shit comparatively to just
They make their shit easy. You can download any show on Netflix mega fucking fast on 4G. Just like fucking do it. And they advertise that. You can't do that on Crunchyroll or Funimation.
And they have a very rich culture of original series.
Yeah.
Which, Crunchyroll launched one half-assed attempt at something and immedately got blown the fuck out by everybody in the world.
They fucking want nothing to do with it. Like, it's in fucking hell right now.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't understand how these services think that they are offering enough that they deserve to live, Like, all these services just think like, oh, if we build it, they will come. You're not building something that they need. You have to build something people want, That's the absolute basis of all commerce. You trade money for something someone wants. It doesn't have to have any value except in that person wants it, But like, I just don't understand how you can get to a level of success doing business and then just like not remember how business works. Or is it just that they're trying to in this endless attempt to grow, because none of them can ever none of these corporations wants to stop. They all want to keep going. They all want to go to like a new higher plane, a new higher level, So they got to keep trying to find ways to enter, to go to the 5D, but like just totally losing sight of that most basic element of like just creating something people want, and that's how you get them to do it. It's not hard. You don't need an AI. You don't need that. You just need to pay the fuck attention to what's going on. That's it. The way that marketing works is you pay attention to what's happening, and it's something that all these YouTubers have been perfectly capable of doing by just looking at what movies are popular and talking about them, And if you don't have that buoy of like, oh, this thing is already marketed and I'm going to ride the marketing wave of that, you have to do the marketing for yourself from the beginning. The only question you have to be asking yourself is like, do I have something people want? Do I have the ability to make something people want happen? And I think that there are so many people who think that what people want is just what they've already had. And that's not what people want. People, they may fear new things,
but they want the most convenient product possible.
No, they may fear new things, but they do want new things.
Yeah. People
want new things, they just don't know what new things they want.
They want new things that are convenient.
They want new things that will make things better for them. More convenient, more advanced, more that will impress them, that will make them feel... The reason people love all these fucking stupid blockbusters is because the technology keeps getting better, and so it keeps being more impressive to see what you can do with a movie.
Right.
And when we got to a point where we can't, the special effects already look hyper realistic. Where do we go from here?
Nobody has the budget of the latest series.
Avengers, yeah. You can also build outwards. You can build in all these different directions, but it's always about like being bigger, more impressive, more unheard of, But like you can take that route and be bigger, more impressive, more unheard of, or just be, just have an original idea, something more unique, something that people didn't realize they wanted, but when they see it, they know they want it. And I don't think it's that hard to develop a natural next step from the things that are there before, Like, coming up with something new doesn't mean inventing something from thin air. It means building the next step onto what is there, It means like, okay, I've looked at everything that's happened up to this point. What permutation of this hasn't existed yet? That
you could either go more advanced or just more niche.
Right. But either way, like, there are people who want it. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of like, I think that the only guy you need to have in like one of these offices is just a guy who knows what's going on, and you come up to him and you say, hey, would this thing work? And he'll tell you to what extent he thinks that thing will work, and then you do it, but you have to make sure that guy knows what's going on. And it's not always easy because sometimes people know what's going on for a little while and then they don't know what's going on. Sometimes you got somebody who knew what was going on at one point, but he's lost track of what's going on. He don't know what's going on anymore, you know? And I think a lot of these companies, that's who they're listening to, is somebody who doesn't know what's going on anymore. Their marketing director is some old fuck. He doesn't know what a Netflix is, you know? He doesn't know what the kids are fucking watching. He's not on Twitter. You got to have somebody who's tapped into what people are doing right now. People are on social media. They're on streaming services. They are accessible through this and that channel, this and that means. What ideas are percolating in them, you know? And it's not about looking at everybody and saying like what can I make that will reach the largest number of people? It's what can I make? How many people will that reach? And therefore should I do that? Yes or no? That's the question you should be asking yourself. You know, so as a company, instead of like the question of like how do we reach 7 billion people instead of merely 6 billion, it's like, no, you need to think about like, all right, what can we do? Who can we reach? How do we budget that appropriately? And how many of those appropriately budgeted projects can we do, you know, alongside each other instead of trying to chase the dragon of the ultimate big hit, you know?
Right.
And that's why all of these companies, like this idea of run to streaming. No, don't run to streaming. Nobody wants your streaming platform. Fuck streaming. Figure out what people want. Make something people want. Go onto the internet and go into, you know, places where people are talking about shit. Figure out who do people like. Who do people gravitate towards that could be somebody bigger who we could work with and who could, you know, who we could help their vision to come to life and reach a bigger audience, you know, like find, I mean, this is something that does happen in the world of film, you know, like all these, this is what Disney did. This is their key to success to make all these Avengers movies successful is they found fucking directors who James Gunn, nobody fucking knows who James Gunn is unless they are like an indie film guy, you know, like he never made a super major huge film. He made good movies, you know, and so they find people like that but then so many of these studios tried to do that and fucked up when they tried to put Josh Trank on Fantastic Four or fucking, you know, I can't remember the other one where it was a famous case of a botched major movie that was, you know, given to one of these guys because they tried to take too much control from the person, you know, like they didn't understand, like, no, you got to find, it's not just about hiring some indie darling director. It's like, who is the person for the project? Don't hire Josh Trank and give him Fantastic Four if you're not going to let him do whatever he wants. Hire him to do a movie he wants to do. Right. Promote that, like, you know, figure out how big is the projected audience for this thing, budget the film appropriately for that audience, market it to that audience and beyond, and if it's good, it will grow beyond that audience, you know, and if he fucks up, then you can can him, but, like, you don't put him in charge of something that has fucking nothing to do with him, then tell him the rules. It's like, well, what the fuck is the point of bringing me in then? You know, this isn't the same thing as what Disney is doing. And Disney's not just picking indie directors. They're picking a guy who, you know, James Gunn had worked on a movie called Super before about superheroes, and fucking the guy who wrote Buffy the Vampire Slayer to do the whole, you know, the movie where everything comes together, because he's written tons of these gigantic cast, you know, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Ensemble, you know, works. Like, it has to be somebody who makes sense for the vision you're trying to achieve, and you have to give them enough creative reign to do it. But, you know, this is the smart way of doing things. Like, it's not, there's a lot of people who seem to think that, like, the smart way of doing business is cynical, and that, like, people are always like, oh, capitalism, blah, 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 blah. Capitalism's not the problem. It's the bad business practices, and they will eventually hurt you and destroy you. If you treat your employees badly enough, they won't work for you anymore. If you don't provide a product that people want enough, they won't keep buying it. And yes, you can trick some of the people some of the time, but not forever, and you can't, you know, fool everybody ever. Like, the best way to make money is through honest effort. You know, like the best way to have a company that will have longevity, that will last, that will continue to be supported by people is to run it correctly. So like, you know, anybody doing anything other than that is doing capitalism bad. And I think that's what all these fucking streaming platforms are doing.
Yep. And I'm not going to say Disney isn't doing capitalism bad.
I think they did Star Wars very bad. I think whoever they had in charge of that did capitalism the most cynical way, and they tried to do it in that. And well, also their live action movies I think are extremely cynical, but I don't think that they're cynical in the same way. I think that those movies do understand something that people want. I don't think those movies, they're bad from like the standpoint of me as a critic. And they're bad from the standpoint of people who like really care about those old movies from like a cinematic standpoint. But I think those movies give most people exactly what they want, and they are not disappointed. Right. You know,
wasn't the studio that made the Lion King remake? Didn't they like close unexpectedly?
They did close, and it was also potentially tied into the Sonic movie or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think there's big copes coming from everywhere.
Oh, there'll always be big copes. Is this a new meme that you're? Is this a recent term coming out?
I'm just thinking about the fucking decision to have AI greenlight films.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is the biggest cope a film studio could ever make. Like, let's just fucking get an AI. Like, maybe they just did it for the headline, and they're gonna.
It sounds like such a desperation move, doesn't it?
It really does.
Like with what we know of, like I don't know what the level of this AI is, but like when I think of an AI, I don't think of something that I think could do a better job than a marketing director. So it better be a pretty fucking good AI.
Maybe fucking the Sonic movie was such a bad idea.
That they just...
I don't know. WB didn't have anything to do with that. Wasn't that Sony? I have no idea.
I don't know.
But, it's just funny. Yes, it's a meme that I'm trying to force.
Do we want to read any more Glassdoor reviews?
I've had my fill.
All right.
I'm not interested in reading the old ones because, these companies very clearly have periods where everything looks great. Like, again, just 2 years ago... Crunchyroll was like, oh, we're going to have Crunchyroll Expo, and we're going to have our own anime, and, like, we're launching VRV and all this shit. Like, obviously they felt like they had a lot of influence.
I mean, it's almost like everything that we all thought sounded really stupid and misguided at the time turned out to be stupid and misguided. Remember when Crunchyroll Expo was announced and everybody clowned on it and was like, why? Why would Crunchyroll have an expo?
Maybe they have an ulterior motive. Maybe they're about the optics more than about the product. But, like, I think that Crunchyroll will probably die before Funimation because Funimation has been around longer and offers more than just a streaming service as a product. They're more tied to the industry than I think Crunchyroll can be. I don't know. It's just going to be interesting in the next couple of years to see what happens. Like, I just hope that the people that do work in these industries realize their worth, that it's their work translating, it's their work working in these industries. Like, they are the people that make these companies great. It's not the management. Like, don't let people treat you like shit. You can be innovators. You could create the next best thing. Like, if Crunchyroll's a dying ship, don't fucking work for them. Like, right. There are lots of fans who are angry about their practices and have been for a long time. And, like, learning that Crunchyroll is not paying their translators they're paying them $80
They're paying them less than what is considered to be industry standard.
Yeah, $80 for, you would say, like, that's a day's work. I don't know. They're making less than I made at Target. Like...
Yeah.
Working on a product that people are going to be seeing all over the country, like all over the world, doing a very important job. And it's just like, don't let your talents be wasted. Like, don't be schemed into working for these companies. Yeah. Like, understand that these are companies who do not have your interests as a priority. And also, they don't fucking even know what's going on because there's so much consolidation right now, especially with these streaming platforms being bought up and, like, consolidated. And there's going to be mass firings probably for eternity. Like, I don't see Crunchyroll having a place in the future where we have Netflix and Disney Plus And like both of those services are gonna slowly escalate the price of their product until it's like $30 a month for these services, and you're not gonna have fucking money to have a Crunchyroll. Like, you're not going to be thinking about it.
That's how they'll shut out competition.
And,
probably.
you know, Netflix is going to just keep having good shit.
Well, I mean, eventually, because, I mean, if they can't escalate it too far, because then all a streaming service has to do is not have that price, and they're dead. So it's never going to get to a point where
a streaming service
insane.
like the Peacock, who has, like, 2 or 3 shows that people are going to watch, or the Discovery Channel, even if it's a third of the price, is not going to be like a primary.
I don't think HBO ever got up to $30 a month. You know.
No, but I do think that if people are cutting their cable bills and they're just like, oh, I mean, I don't think Netflix is the best company right now either. I think that probably Disney Plus is like, I don't know. I don't pay for any of this shit. Like, all the people that I know have like Rokus and like TV sticks.
Yeah.
And they're cutting their cable bills. Like, I don't know a lot of people that have cable who are trying to save money. So it'll just be interesting to see who wins, because I don't think Netflix is necessarily safe. Yeah. And I think the introduction of Disney Plus into the playing field is shaking things up.
You just reminded me of one more thing I wanted to talk about, which is the future, because as you put it, streaming is a bubble that will burst. And I think that it's a lot bigger than just that a lot of these streaming platforms are going to die. I think that technology is going to make streaming the way that it has been irrelevant, that it's going to change, because we're already at a period where blockchain and peer-to-peer are both alternatives that are making a lot of progress. Yeah. You've got, because internet connections are so much better, peer-to-peer connections, you can easily stream video peer-to-peer, and you know, the blockchain is not as powerful yet, but either one is a decentralized system that would make it so you know, the whole power structure of how data is handled on the internet would change, and it would be extremely hard, I think, to control the market of people, you know, pirating, basically, after a certain point.
Right, and the pirates are always going to be a step above.
I think that when the technology of the piracy is better than the technology of the streaming services...
It's always going to be that way.
Well, I mean, when it's like, yes, it is that way right now, but like when it's easier for a regular person to pirate. Like, I think that, like, okay, BitTorrent is, BitChute, rather, is itself a peer-to-peer streaming service. I don't think it's pure peer-to-peer, but like it is, the idea is that it functions basically like a torrent, and that you're watching the video streamed from other people who are hosting the video. I think that if we get to a point where people have like crazy amounts of space on their computer, because, you know, we're getting into the realm of you know, quantum computing and shit, and, you know, really ridiculous amounts of data that people can carry around. I think that if we get to a point where people have like stupid amounts of data and stupidly good internet, then there'll be no reason that like peer-to-peer streaming won't just be like instantaneous, like simultaneous download upload speed, basically. So you could like,
you won't be streaming, you'll just be downloading.
You'll just be downloading things as you watch them, and then having them auto delete themselves from your computer.
As I mean, at least for me, as going to a streaming service and like, oh, it's buffering. Yeah. Like, I just fucking torrent everything.
I mean, like, because, okay, so there was that site called, what was it? Was it DTube? No.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking
DTube,
of.
but the other one.
The one that we had an account on. Fuck.
There was this thing, so me and Tom were looking into alternative browsers a lot last year, and there's this browser that does not rely on HTTP. It's
Brave?
No, we're using Brave.
Oh, fuck, what was it called?
I don't remember. It doesn't matter. The browser didn't rely on HTTP. It relied on some other kind of encryption, but like basically it was a peer-to-peer browser where, you know, if you're even going to a website, then it's all running. I
had a website that was tracking the status of like weed shops opening in Massachusetts.
Right. It's PeerTube. That was the name of it. Yeah. PeerTube was a site that allows you to make your own, basically your own streaming site. Like what it links to whatever, you know, whatever videos you want it to to link to, but they're all peer-to-peer video streaming. But you basically create your own YouTube, and then you can form federations with other people's and like have it so both of your content is on, or like, you know, each of your feeds goes into the same thing basically. So it's like having a channel, but that channel is completely owned and completely customizable by you. There's no you know. So if something like that becomes commonplace, there is no controlling piracy.
I think people are innovating
just not possible.
so fast in the realms of that like that is possible. Like even if we don't have,
I think 5 to 10 years we will reach a point where I'm going to say in 5 years we will reach a point where peer-to-peer technology and or blockchain technology has gotten to a point where it is very easy to not use the mainstream internet, not use mainstream services, not worry about what is uploaded to a server, but just what people have, you know, like what has seeds. And if enough people got on board with that, then it really is just a matter of like enough people having good enough internet connection, good enough computers, enough space to hold files, you know. So like, and all that is stuff that is constantly improving. You know, that has never stopped improving over the years. So there's no reason to think that this won't come to a point where it's going to be the case, you know. Right. That'll be when YouTube and all these other sites are fucking completely dead.
Do you remember the anime cryptocurrency, the neat bucks? What was it called?
It was Otaku the coin or something. All right, I want to leave us on this. I want to read one more.
All right.
We'll wrap this up by reading one more Funimation employee review, because this one's epic and is an 8-year employee. He says, "When you realize the dream has actually become the nightmare."
Wait, you read this one already?
No, I didn't read this one. Did I? I don't think so.
No, you didn't. This is really long.
All right.
I've been working all sound the same after a while.
I have been working at Funimation full time for more than 8 years. This is from 2016, March 27th, 2016. So this guy started in 2008, and he worked there to 2016. Pros: you'll work with some of the greatest people ever. It's those awesome people that make leaving this company difficult. Free anime and flexible hours. Cons: there are some departments completely overworked while others have nothing to do. The production area is expected to basically be on call 24/7, even though when hired on, you are told that days like that are minimal and that there will be minimal weekend work. I work 6 to 7 days a week. There was a time when our department took pride in what it did, and it was most definitely a quality versus quantity mentality. Now it's all about cranking out shows as fast as possible, and the quality has severely declined. Employees are treated poorly. There is absolutely no communication between our director and us. We've had 3 management members. The people who are supposed to be the go-between us and our director quit in the last year, 2 of which had been there 7 and 10 plus years. It's a shame upper management clearly feels threatened by suggestions from those of us at the bottom of the totem pole. We don't want your job, but it sure would be nice if you would act like you cared enough to listen to our concerns. The majority of us are so terrified of being fired for some BS reason, we don't feel like we can be honest with our upper management because it's always blatantly obvious how easily replaceable we are. The resentment of employees is astounding. When I was hired in 2008, the employees were much happier and everyone felt they were there serving a purpose and putting out a good quality product. Now, if you had the chance to be a fly on the wall during any employee conversation, especially those in production, you would hear the same conversation repeatedly. Can't afford to live on my own due to the low pay, so I have to get roommates or have a second job or live at home with parents, etc. Management never listens to what employees have to say. I'm so miserable here, but the job market is so bad, I've been applying for jobs XX months/years and no bites. This job seriously cuts into my health and well-being due to the high-level stress. The pay is abysmal unless you are a director or someone in upper management. The CEO has no clue what is going on in his company, let alone who his employees are. The same issues have never been taken care of in the 8 years I've worked at Funny. Roof leaks every time it rains, bathrooms are constantly in a state of disarray, coffee machine is continually broken, the doors on the production side are always broken and therefore never lock. There are no written training manuals. Seriously, there is absolutely nothing to refer back to. How do you run a company with no training manuals? The office politics are disgusting. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and the person you think is your BFF will throw you under the bus so hard if it's their butt on the line. When you continually fire people and or have people quitting in your department, it clearly means the issue is with the management of said department and not the employees. There is no consistency. The quality of product has gone increasingly downhill. In order to get super awesome shows now, Funny essentially has to work on hentai and brutal BDSM quality works. It's disgusting to see day in and day out. Not enough room for employees. hentai and brutal BDSM quality work. What do you think? He just like watched Prison School and was like, I'm not working here anymore. This is from 2016, so that would have been the year before. Advice to management: figure out a system to promote from within. Utilize the many talents of the various employees you already have instead of looking outside the company. You have some shining stars with a variety of neat backgrounds. Take advantage of that. Stop posting fake positive reviews on here to counteract the negative ones. Instead, read what the negative reviews are saying and do something to fix the issues. They all seem to be saying the same thing. Bonuses should be issued company-wide and not just to the already rich upper management. Pay raises need to happen. Many of us haven't had a raise in 5+ years, and that is not due to performance issues. Well, shit, man. Tell me how you really feel. All right, I guess that's it for the bursting of the streaming bubble podcast.
Pop.